like that. I like the fact that it's holding this line. I would like to see it get back above this pivot point right here, this 21.8. But again, I'm just kind of monitoring it. But I'm still neutral to positive on Bitcoin here, as long as it holds these two lines.
Welcome. This is the Daily Crypto. We know that the bear market weeds out weak organizations, and swing trading is a crucial part of a business entity, especially businesses that need to hold assets. What are the patterns to look out for? How should a smart trader spread out? What should we look out for in the long and medium to short term? Keep watching to find out as we answer these questions with the Chief Market Strategist of InTheMoneyStocks.com, Gareth Soloway. It's fair to describe Gareth Soloway as a conservative swing trader. In that vein, should crypto startups have a staff that would coordinate important decisions, for example, having a short hedge position at the top of a bull market? How do we keep our emotions at bay, even when there is a ton of money at stake?
You see traders and investors tend to fall into the same repeating kind of scenarios of getting excited over something, getting invested in it, believing in it, believing that it'll just go up forever. And it just shows you that, anyone out there who did get hurt in whether it's Bitcoin or BSV or anything else, you're not alone, and there's a lot smarter people falling into these same traps. So, it's important to learn from our mistakes, but it's also important to give yourself a break sometimes and say, hey, listen, let me learn and then do better next time.
What is Soloway's opinion on BSV? Are we at the bottom here? Gareth weighs in on this.
It is the hardest thing for any investor to do, is to pick the tops. And there were certain signs. So the initial time Bitcoin went up in April of 2021, it was hard to pick that top. The second time for me was a little easier because you saw certain things that I would refer to as a negative divergence. And when I talk about that, I don't mean just the technicals on the chart, but you saw more hype in Bitcoin in October and November, but it was not able to really get above the highs from April. So more hype should have equaled a much bigger move through that 68, 69,000 level.
Yep.
But you didn't see it. And that was kind of what we would refer to as a negative indicator, a psychological negative indicator.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, again, that was an easier top for me to call, even though it was the opposite for many people. As we're coming down here, you have to just say to yourself, the things I keep reminding myself of, and I am in the camp, I am long Bitcoin right now. I have some Ethereum long from right around this area. I do think we have a bigger bounce in store, maybe coinciding with the Federal Reserve on tomorrow or the GDP on Thursday. But I don't think the bottom is in yet. I haven't seen enough of that kind of washout. And
everyone wants to believe it's at a bottom, but Soloway says what bothers him the most is that in previous cycles, we've always seen 80 to 85% correction, but that has not yet become apparent on Bitcoin.
This is the first time in Bitcoin's history where the Fed's not printing money that wouldn't think, like, if the Fed was printing money in those previous ones and it went 80 to 85%, it makes me scared to think, well, what if could it go 90%? I don't know. And again, It's scary to think that way, but I think as an investor and a trader, you have to always prepare for the worst. And if it doesn't come, then that's fine. But you never want to think the best, because that's when you get wiped out, right? Yeah. So I'm a big fan of being, like you mentioned it in your opening, how you have to be conservative and you have to be a defensive investor. And that's the way you don't blow your account up. And people that don't blow their account up, they may not make 500% a year or 3 or 2 or 100% a year. But if you look at the account of someone who's reckless versus someone who is safe, in 10 years, the safe account is way, way higher.
In a bull market, the dumbest investor would seem like a genius because they are going to buy some nonsense, and that nonsense is going to pump, and then he buys the top and becomes the biggest loser. Soloway continues.
An investor, but what you tend to find is that investing does take time, energy, and dedication. And when people hear about it through the grapevine from their buddies or their colleagues, and they're buying it at that point in the cycle, the smart money has already got in. And then the smart money is just loving this, that they can just sell into these people that are buying in. So you have to be very aware of where you're getting your information.
In the cryptoverse, there is such a conflict of interest for good information. Where does Gareth Soloway go for reliable information to try to get ahead of some of this stuff?
No, one of my policies about investing, and this goes back to the safety of it, is number one, the place I get my information is the chart, right? So if you look at Dogecoin, when it, basically this is referred to as a flag pattern, right? So you'd be a buyer here if you're going to take a shot. Once this thing is even up this much, there's no way I even chase it. And does that mean that I miss out on a lot of the run? Yep. But you know what? There's a million trades coming almost every day, and I'm more than happy to miss out versus me buying it here. And what if it goes right down, back down? So for me, I'm 100% in agreement that you don't trust really anyone. You trust something that's impartial. The only thing that's impartial that doesn't have an agenda is the chart, right? I mean, it's the purest form of truth out there. And so I really just use that. And I do pay attention. Like, I'm fully aware of what's going on Twitter. But for me, I actually use it as kind of a contrarian viewpoint. So when I'm hearing all this buzz again about GameStop or AMC or Doge or Shiba Inu, that's where I start to mentally say, wait a minute, I've learned enough. And this is, by the way, for everyone watching, I fell into the same issues early in my career, chasing, doing everything wrong. I just got burned enough where I started to say, wait a minute, every time I do this, it's the wrong thing. So let me think about doing the opposite. And then I started to notice it was working. And I'm like, wait, so when my gut is telling me, oh my goodness, I need to jump on, you actually look for a top. Oh yeah, this is working. So it's such a cool thing, but it's a lot of self-exploration.
Soloway points out that the last Super Bowl had all these crypto commercials in it. Going back to the .com era, the one just before the collapse, before everything got wiped out, there was the .com Super Bowl too. Soloway indicates that there are so many weird similarities, but makes a lot of sense because human psychology doesn't change. It's the same fear and greed that drives most investors, and it doesn't matter if you're into stocks, commodities, or cryptocurrencies. It's the same emotion that drives prices up and down. In that case, on scaling in or laddering in, we can say that we are at the trough of the market, bottoming down, but we are not quite there yet. What are Soloway's preferred techniques of entering trades?
Yeah, so just like that, I learned the hard way early on, and I found out that the first step in any good investor's business plan, swing trading investing, is to number one, face the fact that you're not going to always pick the bottom, right? Especially when you're bottom fishing, as they call. So I do exactly use the term. I call it the shotgun effect, which is like, instead of picking one specific entry to throw all your money at, just spread it out in a general range. And so what I did is with Bitcoin, I still think it's got downside after this latest bounce. I still think we actually have one more little push up, but I think it's going to 12, 13,000, maybe even lower. But when it got to 19,000, I said, you know what? I'm going to divide the amount of money that I want to put at risk in Bitcoin, and I'm going to do 1/6 at 19,000. And then every 2,000 to 3,000 down, I'll just put another 1/6 in until I have a 6/6 position, right? A full position. And I agree 100% is that, if it doesn't get to 12 or 13, I don't want to be sitting there with no Bitcoin at all when it runs to 100 to a 500,000. So I'm more than fine on expecting to be down on from a 19,000 entry if it goes to 12 or 13, especially if I'm dollar cost averaging in. So I do that exactly. And I think it's important for investors to, number one of the greatest things about that technique is it takes emotion out of it, right? Because if you go all in at one level and Bitcoin goes down 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,000, your adrenaline, you're like, oh my goodness, what if it goes to zero?
With a 1/6 position, Soloway adds, you kind of hope it goes down because you want to get more. That takes the emotional edge away because you are not investing so much capital in one shot, and it kind of gets you excited if it goes down because you get to accumulate more. The chief financial officer continues.
The shotgun approach is the best approach. It's just the hardest one because the investor mentality is, oh my goodness, what if I only do a 1/6 and then it goes to $1 million? I'm losing out on so much money. But the pro approach is, let me do 1/6 because I want to protect my capital in case it goes down, right? It's a totally different mindset.
What are the current charts looking like?
Right. So we saw Walmart warning about earnings. That created a kind of a risk-off atmosphere in technology stocks and in the stock market, which then brought Bitcoin down. Now, the one positive about Bitcoin is it's holding this upsloping trend line, and it's still holding the 2017 highs right here around 19,500, 700 area. So for me, I like the fact that you went from 19,000 to 24 and change in 7 days. And now we've pulled back 2, 4, 6, 7 days, and we've only given up a little over half of that gain. So I like that. I like the fact that it's holding this line. I would like to see it get back above this pivot point right here, this 21.8. But again, I'm just kind of monitoring it, but I'm still neutral to positive on Bitcoin here, as long as it holds these two lines right down here.
Which patterns do we observe in the short, medium to long term? Gareth explains.
My short-term outlook is bullish. My midterm move is bearish down to 12.13, and then my long-term, years out, I continue to just think that Bitcoin becomes the more digitized gold and kind of the store of safety, BSV. I think all of these ones survive and ultimately thrive if they're in the top 20, 30.
Moving from Bitcoin, how is BSV doing?
The thing I'm seeing is that it looks like this pivot low and this pivot low, you could draw a straight line through that. So that's your baseline of support right here. So you're basically, you want to see this at worst case, I would want to see it hold this 44.50 area. I wouldn't want to see candles close below it. You pierced it right here, but this is actually a bottoming tail. So this was a reversal signal. You can see after that, it actually traded up really, really nicely. The other thing I'm seeing here is a little bit of an upsloping trend line, which is the secondary level that I would say you want to make sure that it holds. So in terms of support, and we see the price coming down here, right around 49.5 to 50 bucks, I want to see price hold that. If it doesn't hold that, then 44.5 is your next big support. All right, now if it can hold this area, then I think you get one more move up, at least retesting this high right here around 67, which frankly is a pretty big percentage move. And then even the possibility would be, and this would be in the bull case that Bitcoin probably goes to 28,000. I think this could get up as high as around $74 to $75. But these would be your two support levels and your two resistance levels.
Thanks for watching this video. What are your DCA positions in the next couple of days or weeks? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. See you on the next one. Bye for now.